Here we go. And as we begin this recording, hello, Edge Studio fans and friends and students and everyone. Good afternoon and good morning and good evening to everybody in the world today. Hi. I am letting in the beautiful people of the voiceover community into the Zoom, as it were. I am seeing my familiar faces. Hello, Micah. Great to have you. Hello, Marguerite. Yes, John is here. Love seeing John. Tim, welcome back. Hi, Greg. Thanks for coming. Hello, everyone. Good day to you all. Yes, Denitra's back. Hi. I'm so happy to see everybody. Okay, wonderful time that it is to be alive on this February day. I didn't receive any Valentines in the mail from any of you. That was weird, but you know what? That's okay. I'll accept that it's taking a while to get stuff in the post. So hi, welcome. My name is Siobhan. I'm letting everybody in as I'm saying hello. We've got 80 people. It is 1:02. Hi, I'm Siobhan. I am the social media manager and community liaison here at Edge Studio, and I am so happy to welcome you all to another fine session of our AMAs. If you have not been here before, you're in for an hour of good information and conversation, specifically about voiceover, not about all the other things in the world. Okay, we're gonna stick to that.
Are there other things going on? Wait. Are there other things going on in the world? Really?
What are you talking about?
Not right now. Not right now. They're not. So wonderful. So if you have not met him, I would like to introduce you to our Chief Edge Officer to my Zoom left, David Goldberg. Good afternoon to you.
Hello, everyone.
David, how are you today?
I'm good. Good. We are blanketed in snow. The kids have off from school. Don't be surprised, everyone, if you hear some yelling, fighting, screaming, kicking, punching, all that kind of stuff with two young boys.
Wow. Again, these are the times I don't envy that particular lockdown, David. So David is here. Nicole was asking him about his walls, which are enshrined in the art of his children. We do appreciate, the chance to learn a little bit about each other in the Zoom squares. That's something I find to be, one of the things I'm not taking for granted about this time. Another human who I'm very jazzed to introduce you to, and who is actually our first AMA session with us. She feels like a friend because I've known her through, the email exchanges for a long time, but this is also my first video session with her. The amazing, illustrious, Atlanta-based professional voice actor and Edge Studio coach, Nicole Britton.
Hi.
Good afternoon to you, Nicole.
I love how you said
yeah.
It's super fancy. I might adopt that. Britton. Hi, everyone. It's really great to be here. Siobhan, David, thank you for asking and including me in this amazing opportunity to have a good down-to-earth chat about voiceover. It is my passion. It is what I do, eat, sleep, breathe, aside from my children who are also home, and you might see their faces pop up in the window down here. And that's life. That's what we do. My kids are voice actors too, so we just do figure eights in and out of this booth almost all day long.
And that is again, the magic of the experience. I think I've got several probably parents or childcare providers in the house today who feel those vibes. And if you are a parent and also doing this kind of work, I am extra proud of you. And thanks for making the time to be with us. So let's get this going. If you haven't been here before, again, the way this magic works is today we're really going to point as many questions as we can because we have the rare opportunity to speak with Nicole. So we're going to ask her about her life and experiences as a professional voice actor. And of course, we've got David here with us to talk all things production, engineering, etc. And he will also, of course, piggyback on Nicole's responses. If you want to start, people are already doing it. Todd, thanks for saying Happy Valentine's Day. Hello from Toronto. Hi, Laura. Yes, everybody in the chat, I love to see where you're from. we used to host these Edge Studio mixers in our studio, which we can no longer do. So what's special about doing them online is that I do get to have friends from Virginia and Toronto and Houston, Texas, and lots of other cool places that where I didn't get to meet you before, except for at conferences, which we will do again someday. So give us a shout. Hello, yes, Columbus. Hello, Michigan, my mighty Midwesterners. Great to have you. And so what we're going to do now is you're going to drop some questions in the chat, and I am going to facilitate them. You are on mute because that's the way of our modern world. You will be muted unless we really need you to manage a question better if we're not understanding what you need. But otherwise, I will take your questions. I will give them to our amazing panelists, and I will try to get to everyone. If I don't get to you, it's not that I don't love you. Just trust that I'm doing my best out here, as we all are in 2021. Hello from Raleigh. Hello, Indiana. Okay, and I'm actually going to get us started today because I love it when we have guest stars. I love, our time with David, and I love our guests. It's just all good. But what's great about the guest star opportunity is to get us warmed up a little bit and just ask Nicole about her experience. When she first started working at Edge, I definitely sent her a fan email. I don't know if you remember this, Nicole, but I stalked her website and I sent her an email, and I was like, oh my gosh, you seem so great. You have a theater performance background. I feel like I really relate to you, and I'm so excited to, have you on our team. Da, 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 da. So, Nicole, would you tell us a little bit about your experience and your how you came into working as a professional voice actor, and where you started, where you are now? Would you give us a little primer, please?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for asking. So this is something that I've been doing all my life. And, I grew up in Colorado, and I won't take you all the way back to 3, but let's go back to teen years. I did local commercials and things like that, and then went to school in Colorado at the University of Boulder, studied theater, loved the classics, moved to New York City, studied at Playwrights Horizons, and then worked around town, way off Broadway, off Broadway, off Broadway. Never quite made it to Broadway, but that's okay. Almost. So many times. Almost. But then, so that was a brief period of time in the 90s, about 5 years in Manhattan. And then I moved to LA, where we lived for about 20 years. And I had an on-camera career. And quite honestly, I mean, I'll tell this story because I think it's helpful for people to understand being in the right place at the right time. But so much more than that, it's also being ready when you're in the right place at the right time, and knowing what to do, which I didn't. So I will tell you this story so that maybe you can learn from it. But I was going to a coffee shop every day, and I would bump into this gentleman. We'd, knock elbows, reaching for the half and half, putting it in our coffee. And over a period of time, he was like, hey, would you like to come a little earlier and join my coffee clutch? And I was like, sure, absolutely. Okay, thanks. So I sit down, and little did I know who I was sitting at the table with, but they were people who were heads of departments and really super creative people for Warner Brothers and Disney and all kinds of good stuff. And they became my friends, and they would come and support my shows in LA, and even some of the regional shows I did. George came out with his wife and came to some of the shows I did while I was in New York City. But anyway, long story even longer. My first voiceover gig came from George a year after knowing him and sitting down at the table with his group of friends, saying yes to that opportunity. I never asked for any more, though. I was just happy to be sitting at the table. And he one day showed up with a parking pass for Disney Imagineering, and he was like, would you like to come and work on a project I'm doing? I'd like to hire you as a voice actor. And I was like, yeah, sure, absolutely. I'd never done voiceover before. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but I said yes. I showed up. I did a lot of really fun stuff in that time period for a new theme park that was opening, Disney California Adventure at the time. So anyway, that led to a bunch of other fun and neat experiences. But I tell you, it was a marathon and not a sprint. And it was so unintentional. It was just being there, being present, being open, saying yes, being fearless, and jumping right in. So that's really the beginning of it all. And I took time off, did other things on camera. But being in Atlanta now for the last 7 years, I focused only on voiceover. My bread and butter comes primarily from commercials. I do a little bit of character work in video games and animation, and then radio imaging. And of course, I pick up other things in between, but those three, that's my three-legged stool, I call it. Those are my primary fields of interest and where I found that my wheelhouse can shine.
And can you tell us just a little bit about what brought you from Hollywood to Yollywood?
My husband, actually. My husband worked up until this last March in the film industry as well, behind the camera. And we just felt like there were so many interesting opportunities happening in Atlanta. So he's worked on everything from Hunger Games to Spider-Man. He's an art department guy. So that's what brought us here. And it was actually one of the best things that we've ever done for ourselves and our family and for our careers. I think my voiceover career really took off after coming to Atlanta. It is such a wonderful, tight-knit, loving community. But what I realized is the whole voiceover community is very loving, warm, tight-knit community. It's a very supportive group of people. So I encourage people to network. Obviously, we're not doing that in person right now, but I did a lot of networking when I first moved here. I joined groups. I joined Women in Film and Television, Atlanta. I joined some of the ad club groups so I could go and meet the people who were in advertising. I probably did 2 or 3 events per week just to get out there and meet people. Yes, to network, but also because I'm very interested in understanding how I fit into the puzzle, because it's not just about us as voice actors at all. We're actually the last thing people think about. And once you realize that, I think it takes some of the pressure off too. Or maybe it makes it worse. I'm not sure. A little bit of both.
Awesome. And I just one more question regarding all of that. Do you feel, Nicole, that you're like an extrovert person? Like, so those events were kind of easy for you, or was that a little bit stressful or nerve-wracking, or how was that for you to step out so much?
It's stressful, it's nerve-wracking. I mean, everybody, I run the gamut of emotions. I love to be an extrovert. I'm a born performer, but then there's a part of me, the flip side of that coin, that has to come home and recover from that for days. I found partners. I found other people that were interested in doing the same thing. So that kind of is always great. We can be one another's wing person. So over time, there were very few times where I would go by myself, but I think just life experiences taught me to be a little bit more comfortable with being uncomfortable. I'm okay with that. You got to kind of settle into it. Own the butterflies.
Awesome. I love that. Yes, I was asking because I know that can be stressful for some people, and I wanted to empower the opportunity to put yourself out there, and then maybe you can recover in the aftermath
I found that
of that.
my conversations were most successful when I didn't really allow anybody to talk about me. And that's okay, right? Like I asked questions. I was doing what you're doing now, Siobhan. But being in that seat of like, oh yeah, so and then I would ask crazy questions, but I've had some of the best conversations just asking not crazy off the wall, like what kind of socks are you wearing? Nothing like that. But like just like, so what's your favorite? It's not a crazy question at all. Something like, what band are you listening to right now? Or what was the last movie that you saw? Or, steer clear of politics and religion, obviously, but just things that weren't necessarily industry driven, but things I care about. I love music. So I am always truly, genuinely interested in different genres of people's interests. And so, find a talking point that you can keep nurturing, but you don't have to dwell on the industry itself. It's actually more fun to step outside of that. It'll always come back around, or maybe not. Very rarely did I ever give my business card out either. I am in it for the long haul. It's a different approach. Some people are really, aggressive. Like, here's my card, here's what I do. For me, I feel like I'll see you again and we'll get to know one another. And there will be a time when it is right for us to collaborate. And I wait for that. Sometimes I've waited years. I waited a year for the story I just told you. There is a right time.
Nicole, I'm going to jump into the chat now because I've got Tim asking me, With so many of those in the industry having stage experience, as Nicole does it seem that that's quite necessary? What does that mean for those of us who don't? What do you have to say about that?
As a person who does have stage experience, I find actually sometimes it gets in the way. So no, I consider it a boon. Come in fresh. Learn how to listen. That doesn't mean that you don't need foundation. Absolutely, you've got to coach. You've got to learn what it takes to shine. And clearly, all of you are here because you want to make money doing this. This is a business. Voiceover is a business. So you do what is necessary to have the tools you need. And skills, listening skills are important. Edge Studios offers all kinds of information and classes and coaching on some of those very basic foundational things. I mean, David, that's what you eat, sleep, and breathe as well. Just knowing about listening for tempo, pacing, rhythm, dynamic changes, things like that. There are it's some of the mechanics can help you shine. So you do you, and you take your life experience and build on that. Some of my favorite voice actors and friends of mine, friends and colleagues, have come into voice acting after being business people. And can I tell you how I wish that I had that background too, because that's where I don't shine. That's where I need help. So what they've brought into it is their business acumen, and they've learned the skill set. And they have the talent, of course, to support that, but they worked very hard and built themselves some terrific, rewarding careers. So
Nicole,
yeah.
oh, sorry.
To answer the question, I would just say no. What do you think, David?
Yeah, well, everyone should know that that was a wonderful answer, Nicole. And I agree wholeheartedly, and it was very eloquent and nicely said. I want to add a couple of other thoughts onto that. As Nicole is saying, do what you do best, and that is so important. And to take that up even a notch, I would say not only do what you do, but trust what you do. Because I have been in this industry for 32 years now, which amazes me. And in those years, I've worked with a lot of clients and a lot of voice actors. When I say clients, I mean casting teams as well as marketing people, ad agencies, agents, end clients, focus groups, and all of the voice actors that we hire at Edge. And I've seen this industry from every imaginable perspective over those years. And there are times that it is so helpful to have an acting background. And there are times that it is so helpful to not have that acting background. We have production clients who will say, get me someone who has an acting background. Like, I want someone with stage experience. Or they might say, get me someone with on-camera experience, not stage experience. Or they might say, I don't want an actor. Get me someone who doesn't have that background, who has the business acumen background. And so there's a time and place for everyone in this industry. So a very common question we receive on the coaching end of Edge Studio is, well, do I need to be an actor? Or, is it okay that I'm not? It's fine either way. Just trust what you do and focus on what your core strengths. That is really important. Build your industry, your career, your voiceover career on what your strengths are, your natural strengths and your background and your experience and your interests and your goals and stuff. So never be concerned about your background. Just let me say that differently. Don't be negatively concerned about it. Be positively concerned. Focus on your background and use it. Market it. And you'll always do much better in this industry.
I love that. It's like always looking forward. You're wonderful, and yes, and have courage and faith. Amy has a question, and Nicole, I wonder if you can answer this. If you can kind of do a crash course quickly, so that we can, in talking about gear, my friends, we're not endorsing particular things because everybody likes different stuff. But Nicole, folks are curious about what's going on in your studio. Particularly Amy is admiring your mic. And so we'd like to know what you've got going on there.
Okay. Well, before I launch into that, I will say that I have worked to upgrade things over a period of time. So I want you to bear in mind that all of these things are a result of investing back into my business after starting with something completely different. I started in a closet, which is an awesome place to be to record. And I know you didn't ask me what I started with, but I'm just going to tell you anyway. And I started with an AKG C214 mic, which I still have. And I take that with me on the road sometimes. I started with a Steinberg UR22 interface that I had left over from being in the music industry for a period of time in Los Angeles. This is a Neumann TLM 103. And most of you probably know what this is, but just in case, that has a pop filter in front of it that takes care of some of the plosive stuff. I have an OC white boom arm so I can move it around and up and down for my kids. Now I have a Universal Audio Apollo Twin interface, which is awesome. It has so many things on it that I don't use, any of them, none of them. And, but I'm sure someday I'll figure it out. I've got it dialed in just so. But I'm inside the smallest whisper room that money can buy. And it's perfect because I am a small person. It's about 3 by 3. And then this is all acoustic treatment that you see. This acoustic treatment covers half of the studio. And then I have a moving blanket on the other wall. Some people like to talk about acoustic blankets, and those are great too. Mine is just a simple old moving blanket to which I have pinned notes and cards and reminders and things I want to work on and bring into my work, as well as a small bulletin board so I can keep track of what I'm doing that day, what's coming up when. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I love it. Thank you. That's actually quite a privilege to get a little tour of your specific space. And, just here to highlight Nicole talking about upgrading over time. So it's a slow journey into having a space that feels really close to perfect for you.
Let me just throw in one thing here. And Nicole, you do something that is so important. You saved your original mic. And that, for everyone out there, is a fantastic thing to do, because if a client asks you to pick up a recording that you worked on with a previous mic, it's always really helpful to have that same mic hanging around. So anytime you record a script for a client, somewhere in your database, write down what mic you used, any interesting settings, anything that may have been different that day. Keep track of it. So if the client comes back a decade later and says, remember that job you did for us way back when, we need to re-record one word in the middle of that project, you can much more closely match that sound. So yeah, save your microphones.
Ooh, a pro tip, everyone. Gems and nuggets here on this February.
I have a lot of friends who switch back and forth between their boom mics or their shotgun mics and their condensers or different things like that. So what David said, again, piggybacking on that, it's really important to keep track of your settings for particular clients. So even the gain on your mic, if you tend to adjust that a lot, write it down like you would, like if you're looking at the face of a clock, so you would say, okay, it's about 2 o'clock. That's how I keep track of it, because most of them don't have actual numbers on them.
This is an interesting question. This is from, I think it's Aaron, who is asking, Nicole, have you ever done a job that bit you in the butt later on? For an extreme example, a commercial for Beretta, which prevented you from a PSA against gun violence. Do clients look for that? As a noob, I'm auditioning for whatever I can, but I worry about unwittingly making that type of mistake.
What a great question. So I want David to really weigh in on this, but I'll just say that's called a conflict, and that is something you need to keep track of as well. So this is why, and this is also something that Edge talks about in their business courses with business acumen. Like, how do you avoid those pitfalls? Well, you look for language. It's a lot of boilerplate language, like in perpetuity and things like that. It's like usage. You want to make sure they're not going to be using your voice over and beyond what's necessary. And there's such a high turnover rate. We're just talking about commercials. There's really no reason for a client to need to use your voice for over a year or two unless the package and the buyout is so great you just can't resist. But yes, so what would you say to that, David? I mean, talking about conflicts.
You said it perfectly. Yeah, I mean, look out for conflicts. It's opportunity cost, everyone. If a client calls you up, if Ford calls you, not a local dealership, but the national company, and says, "Can you record a commercial for $300?" You will probably be asked to sign an agreement stating that you will not work for any other car manufacturer. And is that chance worth it for $300? It might be to you, it might not, but just take that into consideration.
One of my friend talks about thinking about your future self because right now, like you said, you're new, you're starting out. It's so fun to see some of these dollar figures rolling in as voice talents and some of the offers. It looks really great. $300 might sound like that might sound like your car payment and a few bills. That's what it sounds like to me. But and that's great. But when you're thinking about future self, who 3 years from now, you did that Ford commercial David talked about, and then now Dodge comes to you. They want to use your voice across all platforms. They want it TV, they want it radio. They're super jazzed about you, and they have a package for you that might be in the five figures. You're going to have to say no if you did that thing for Ford in perpetuity. You'll never be able to work for another automotive company again, unless you want to go to court, but you really won't have a leg to stand on with those words in perpetuity.
Okay, thank
Which,
you.
by the way, is a
Uh,
terrific negotiation point, everyone. There's nothing wrong with you bringing on an attorney, right? Someone who specializes in this world and having them help you through this. There are ways to navigate through it. And there are lots of voice actors who go through this every day. We're going through something just like it. Even this morning, I sent an email off to an attorney about a potential conflict for a given client. And it happens. It's a very, very common thing. And it's a great thing, guys. Like, don't be scared of it, because how wonderful if two companies both want your business. That's your negotiation point sometimes. So,
Going back to that PSA, Aaron, though, that you mentioned, if they wanted it in perpetuity, there's also nothing wrong with you coming back and saying, can't do in perpetuity, but I'd love to negotiate a 2-year buyout with you,
yes.
or a 1-year buyout, right?
Mhm.
That's what negotiation is all about. And we do a lot of that in this industry.
And making a plug for education, there is no harm in booking a session with a professional voice actor and saying, Ken, would you mind looking over this copy for me to make sure that I understand, and talking it through? There is no shame in doing it right and paying people to help you move forward doing it right. From Jules, she says, hello, everyone. My question for Nicole is, what type of training is needed for a person looking to get into VO? And so what, in your mind, what kinds of training would you think is essential? And then is having a home studio necessary for a new person starting out?
Okay, well, what kind of training is necessary? Well, there's something that you can start doing right now, and that is listen, listen, and then do a little bit more listening. Figure out what is in the zeitgeist, meaning what is going on right now in the particular genre or genres that you want to explore as a voice actor. That'll give you a leg up when you decide to figure out who you're going to coach with, who are you going to train with. It's, excuse me, coaching is great because you have somebody else's ears, somebody else's experience to help form you and shape you and really help you realize what you do well, right? They're just there to say, yes, that, do more of that, because that was great. Remember that, please. Put that in your, your, what do you call it when you do something and you remember how to do it? That's what
Muscle memory.
muscle memory. So get it in your muscle memory, right? So your coach is there to guide you through that, but also talk to you about their experiences as far as like what they've tried. I like to talk with the students that I coach through Edge. I talk about my failures too. I mean, there's nothing like making your own mistakes to learn, but they're there to help you hone in your skills. So take some specifically related voiceover classes. Take some acting classes if you want to. Take some improv classes, that can't hurt. And do a lot of listening. And I'm sure there are many things I'm missing out. David, what would you say to that?
I think you got the vast majority of them. I think just as a quick overview, and maybe a few extra points tossed in. Getting an evaluation and really understanding where you best belong in the industry is critical, because there are so many different avenues into this industry. So, make sure that that initial assessment is number one, candid, and number two, really helps you understand your natural strengths and weaknesses, and work with someone to discuss your personal interests and goals, and ultimately figure out what a plan of attack is. That is, I think, the best way into the industry. And then train, get your feet wet, get some small work, reinvest like Nicole did, and keep building your business.
And the home studio,
Yes.
yes. I mean, you don't, if you're new to this and you're trying to figure out whether or not it's what you want to do, no, you don't need to go out and spend money on gear. Everybody has a way to record themselves now. So one of the greatest things you can do, aside from listen, and do some more listening, is record yourself and listen to that. Then pick a few scripts. Edge, the script library on their website is, man, over 6,000 and counting scripts there of all kinds of different genres that you can practice, listen back, see how it sounds, and then see if this is something that you want to do a deeper dive into.
I think
And by the way, for the
this
record,
also
studios. Oh, sorry, Siobhan.
okay.
Just quickly, studios are so inexpensive these days that it shouldn't be a scary endeavor. I should say even further to that, a home studio is rather inexpensive, which is a subjective term, but I mean, you can get by with a $200 USB microphone and free software, and you already have the computer. I mean, it's really not that expensive if you're working in a closet and hanging moving blankets and sleeping bags and so on. And the studio doesn't take up that much space. Like, again, Nicole originally worked in a closet. Now she's still in a 3x3 room. And studios are not that complicated. Uh, Going back 32 years ago when I entered this industry, having a home studio was impossible. Virtually impossible. I mean, you would be sinking a ridiculous amount of cash into it, and that was a big barrier to entry. And that is gone over the years. It's the industry has become easier and easier to get into, technologically speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And on the subject of training, particularly for Edge Studio, Toby is asking, should I take Investigate VoiceOver first, or can I jump into the Foundation Study class bundle? I know Nicole teaches the IVO here with us. David, do you want to start with that question?
Yeah, that is a terrific question. If you want to jump into the training program, that's totally fine if you have your heart set on this. But we will always be candid with anyone. Like, if you get into a program and there's no way to future work, we'll be honest with you and let you know, like, this is going to take a lot of work or a lot of training, or we don't see this progressing anywhere. Here's the thing with an assessment, and I'm sure this is true outside of just voiceover, but when we assess someone, we can't predict the future. We can only our initial assessment on how someone does at that given moment. And there are a lot of people who come in and we say, look, maybe it's not for you. And they say, but I was really nervous and I can do it. I know. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with moving forward with a passion and seeing if it turns into something. So the assessment is it's not fact. It's just how the assessor, one of our coaches, hears where they see you going. They can do their best to predict your potential and your future in this industry, but it's ultimately up to you. We are always there to you. I think we have about 25 coaches, all who specialize in different genres of the industry. So once we kind of figure out your best path, or we help you determine what might be the best path for you, you can, or we'll help you find the appropriate coach to work with so they can really steer you in the right direction. But we sort of look at this really like a university. I mean, you have all sorts of classes and one-on-ones and all sorts of things.
Nicole, as an IVO instructor, can you tell us a little bit about what the IVO is?
Yeah, so what you can expect to sign up if you do decide to go forward with the IVO, the way that I run it is we spend a lot of time introducing one another, which sounds maybe kind of boring, but it's actually quite exciting because in those introductions, there are a million golden nuggets to unpack. Some of the things we're talking about today. Do I need experience? Oh, I hear a lot. I just retired from such and such an industry. Great. Let's use that to your advantage, whatever the case may be. Then I spend a significant amount of time going over the basics of the industry. What are the 28 plus genres of voice acting? You know, because you don't realize it, but it's all around you everywhere, all the time, voiceover. Um, and then we break down and talk about some of the things you can work on immediately looking at your scripts. Is some of the six fundamentals, David, that I go over that in one of my screens. And that would be, I don't know if I can name them without, I'm seeing my screen right now, but tone and pacing and dynamic range, pitch, colloquialism, is it formal or informal? There's one more. I knew I was going to forget one. But
Yeah, well, recently I expanded the list to about 9 things, which I'll be sending you. I just was working on it the other day, so
okay,
it's become a
yes,
bit more detailed. But persona, your emotion, your
yeah,
character, I mean, there's just there are lots of elements to your speaking voice. And as Nicole said, when you're getting into this industry, and even if you are in this industry, it's always helpful to listen.
yeah,
And when you listen, just don't listen like, oh, let me hear what someone's saying. No, really listen to the different elements of their voice, how they use their voice, and what's current, and what's trending these days, and notice their pitch and the amount of tension or lack of tension in their voice and the emotions or lack of emotions they use. And also listen to different types of media. Listen to the phone system when you call your bank or an airline, and listen to corporate training videos, and listen to documentaries on TV, and listen to local commercials and national commercials, and listen to fiction and also nonfiction audiobooks, and cartoons, and whatever it is. Just listen as much as you can, and find the commonalities and find the things that just feel right to you. And again, that becomes an interest. So when you get into voiceover, rather than being a jack of all trades, you can say to whoever is assessing you in the IVO class, which by the way is an acronym for Invest Voiceover. You can say, you can come into that class and say, I think I'm interested in documentary narration. That sounds really interesting. I love documentaries and I like the subject matter. I like watching them on TV, and your coach, whoever you work with, Nicole or someone else, can say, great, let's investigate if that makes sense for you.
one more thing that we do, and I'm sure that all the coaches that run the IVOs do, is that I don't let anybody leave without having your own, I keep saying golden nuggets, but that's what I talk about. Like I will fill your toolbox. We all as coaches will fill your toolbox with enough things for you to start working on immediately. Of course, the fundamentals we talked about, but here, I'll throw something out there today. I tell the students to think of the copy as a response. So what just happened? What did somebody just say? How could you respond with that piece of copy? So when you're working on your own out there, guys, and you're using some of the scripts from the Edge library or wherever you're finding your scripts, think about, if somebody just asks you, where's the best place to get a car? And then you launch into the Toyota spot to answer their question, that sometimes that can change the point of view and actually add a little bit of more realism to the read.
From Marjorie, what should I look for in a coach?
What should you look for in a coach? Okay, that's a good question. First and foremost, I think you look for someone who listens well. Okay. I always start my coaching sessions with a few minutes of a discussion, like how you doing? We touch base. But what I'm doing, of course, I'm listening, and of course, I care where you are and what you're bringing to the session. I'm listening to the words that you use. I'm listening to your language so that I can speak your language. And I think it makes for a more effective, dynamic relationship if I'm not just throwing out terms that I know, but how can I relate the work to who you are and where you are right now? So that's something that I would look for. You look for experience. You look for, gosh, this is a really challenging question. If either of you want to jump in at any time, what do you look for in a coach?
It's good at
Okay.
this. Go,
Yeah.
David.
So over the years, I mean, we've brought on, as I mentioned earlier in this call, we have about 25 coaches currently, and I interview every one of those coaches at some point along the process and make sure that they will match the honesty that we look for in a coach. They'll be able to be knowledgeable and yet candid in a friendly way, in an easygoing manner with students. So what's interesting is just earlier today, someone who I think is on this call, who has some questions about becoming a coach, emailed me late last night saying, what does it mean to be a coach? And I wrote down something for her. And so let me read you what I wrote. It's not that long. I wrote, she was asking specifically how to provide feedback. Okay. And I think that this will be relevant to the question. I wrote, hi, and their name. Appropriate feedback is whatever is best for that particular person. And the variables you should consider span the spectrum, including but not limited to their personality, their goals, their commitment, their schedule, their trust in you as a teacher. And it goes on and on. Um, you have to feel comfortable with your coach. And from our perspective, we have to feel comfortable with the person that we are coaching, the person who we are coaching. It's a relationship, guys. I mean, you're coming to us saying, help me get into this industry. And we're saying, come to us because we can help you get into this industry. And you have to really feel open. You have to feel like it's a safe zone, so you can experiment with your voice. If you go into a session and you are uncomfortable for any reason, then I don't think you'll ever be as open as you possibly can be. And you won't get the education that ultimately I think you should get. So, one of the things that we do in our office, our admin teams are so good at, essentially like guidance counselors, is they can work with a new student, and we do this every day, and say, great, I see your assessment from the Investigate voiceover class, and the person who taught that class, Nicole or someone else, said that you are interested in documentaries. Well, we have a couple of coaches who specialize in that. Let's figure out which coach you should work with, right? Who's going to be best? Some are just based on standard things like, okay, what's your availability? Because we have one coach that likes to work mornings, one that likes to work evenings. And sometimes you pick a coach based on schedule. But beyond that, it's really based upon how we think two people can get along. Their personalities have to mesh so you can be comfortable in front of your coach. Um, I think I will leave by reiterating one thing. Make sure you feel comfortable with that coach. You have to go into it and say, I'm able to open up. Um, Actually, quick story. So I work with a lot of very high-end voice actors, longtime professionals, and sometimes they come at me and they say my numbers are down, or I lost a couple of auditions. Can you tell me what's going on? And I always say, great, be frank with me. Like, where are your numbers right now? Like, you made 10 years ago, you made, $100,000. And this year you made $10,000, making up these numbers to exaggerate the point. And, and I want to know those numbers so I can help someone get back up on their feet. You have to be honest and open with your coach. Okay. So let them know everything that you can so they can help you the best that they can. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah.
I think that's marvelous. I've got a question from James. I'm not sure if this is on topic for today. It's okay, James. You actually had people who in the chat who want an answer to this question. James encountered an online casting asking for a dry demo, and he's not sure what that means. And he produced his demo with Edge. Thank you, James. And it has music, of course. It's fully produced. So the question is that a wet demo? Can we get a version that is dry? Like, what does all this mean? Other people want to know. David, do you want to take that?
Yeah, it just a dry demo, raw demo just means they want to hear your voice without music and sound effect. That's what they're looking for. And
Is this a service?
most clients most clients want to hear music and effects because they're used to hearing that. And it sounds when you market yourself. But if a client, one of the rare clients says, you know what, we just want to hear your raw voice, to hear the subtleties of your voice. So, it's hard for us to hear with music and sound effects, or maybe our client, our client wants to hear it that way, or something of the sort. Then, we can certainly do that for you. You'll need to speak with someone in our office about getting that. I don't. It happens so infrequently in this industry, but it does happen from time to time. Very, very
I
rarely.
have had
So
that happen very rarely also. And I think the few times that it happened, it was a studio test as well. They wanted to hear what my voice
yes,
sounded like in my recording space. So,
yeah, great point. Because when we hire voice actors, um, we are hiring them from their homes. And this is pre-pandemic. Most actors mostly do their work from their home studio, again, pre-pandemic and still continuing today. So whenever we work with a new voice actor, we always request a sample of their studio. We want to make sure that we're not hiring a voice actor who's has a their microphone sounds crappy or staticky, or there's lots of echo in their room or anything like that. So yeah, you're right, Nicole. It might just be a studio sample test. And maybe if a potential client says to you, can you get us a raw demo? Maybe you can clarify with them and say, like, do you want to hear what's on my current demo without music and sound effect? Or do you just want to hear my studio? And then you can just go and re-record a sample in your studio.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, so cruising along, Nicole, what would you say to some of our voice actors, particularly in New York City, very new folks who are figuring out home studio stuff? What if they don't have a closet? What?
Yes, a good question. There are a couple of solutions to that. You can build a pillow fort, much like people do when they're traveling. Pull the pillows off your couch, put a blanket over the top of you, get your mic inside. When I used to travel and take my equipment with me, the best place to do that would be under the desk usually. So I'd put again, I'm small, so I'd fit under there. That might not work for everybody, but I take the cushions off and stuff them under the desk and put my microphone in there. I take a gooseneck clamp with me so I can clamp it pretty much anywhere I go. So everything that I need fits in a little case. But I try to be prepared for anything. So anyway, you could build a pillow fort for yourself. They also sell things that products that you can get inside. Some of them look like eggshells. You could build a PVC pipe and drape type situation for yourself and cover it with blankets. So a quick trip to Home Depot, some chop saw work, and some fittings might do the trick. A lot of people don't record in a booth or a closet. Many people record in a room that is treated. So you could get feedback from some of the engineers at Edge about, the how your sound, right? Can't you do that, David? If you're a
Yeah,
student?
you can. Yeah, and if you record in a room, the larger the room, the more challenging it is to control the sound because you have that much more space to control. So, what a lot of voice actors do is they just take moving blankets, as you have, Nicole, or sleeping bags, and they literally hang them from the ceiling, draping them down. You just take a blanket and you just pop a couple nails into the ceiling, let the blankets hang down on all four sides of you. You need 4 blankets. Make sure then you have a piece of thick carpeting on the floor and another blanket draped on top. And I mean, it may not look fancy, but it will probably sound really good.
Yeah. Well, sound waves, are just like, if you play a pinball game and you shoot the ball out, it keeps bouncing off. So, I mean, that's a very understated layman's way of explaining that. But so what you're doing by hanging that fabric or those blankets, or you're keeping the waves from bouncing and bouncing and bouncing and bouncing and bouncing. So you want something to absorb that. Um, so yeah, there are so many different ways to do this. You don't have to have a booth or a closet. You could still do
So
it.
so I was wondering if I should say this or not. And since my previous little add-in before was about being a safe zone and everyone being comfortable, I divulged something. So I'm in my office, which is in the basement, which is a block room, uh, and I have cement floors in the basement and an untreated. But I'm hoping that there's not too much echo. Oh, and by the way, I'm not a voice actor. I direct, so I don't need perfect clarity. That said, I'm hoping that there's not too much resonance or echo in my voice, and that if that's the case, that is because I have surrounded myself with pillows around me, so you guys can see. And whenever I have what I consider an important call, see, I consider asking me anything to be important calls. I put these pillows around me. I have one on this side too, over here, and I lean them up on either side of my computer, and I have one in front, nothing in back, as you can see. But I think this sounds okay. If I was recording a voiceover, then I would put more pillows up, or as Nicole said, I would put a blanket over my head and over the top of that are on either side of me. So I've been frank with all of you now.
We do, yes, Cleon. We do love the BTS here at Edge Studio. Again, I'm really looking for the positive elements in 2021, and I really enjoy the
Yes.
behind the scenes, David.
Oh, wow. I'm evidently not behind the scenes to know that.
I got you. That's what I'm here for. So I want to do one more question before we talk in our last 10 minutes. And then Nicole, I want to talk to you about your upcoming class. But really quickly, I think that this question is good. Someone was asking about, this is Tim, if my demo is supposed to demonstrate the quality of work I can replicate, how will a demo produced by Edge, let's say you record at Edge Studio, for instance, with our professional qualities, does that showcase the capabilities for what I can replicate in my work? I think that might be a good question with a lot of new folks in the house today. So, David, do you want?
Could I just say something really quick? Your demo should show your range and versatility. To me, that's one of the number one things that your demo shows off. Because if you're new, I mean, it's not like you've gone out and already recorded a Coca-Cola spot, unless you were just really lucky. But which happens, it does. There is hope. But what I'm looking for when I'm working with students is figuring out, like, how can we showcase your range and versatility, figure out what your wheelhouse is right now. And that's going to change over time because we never stop coaching, by the way. I always work with a coach. As David said, he's coaching top-notch, super successful voice actors. And so it doesn't matter where you are in your career. You should always have a coach and mentor, or two or three. But that's my 2 cents on the demo. What do you think, David?
I agree. By far, the most important thing is how you use your voice because the quality of your studio will change over the years as Nicole has gone from a closet to a booth, whisper room booth. She's changed microphones. That stuff is honestly, it's the easy stuff to fix. The quality of your studio is super easy. It's also really important that you do have good sounding studio. So, and this is going to sound like a sales pitch, but it is not the point. If you go through our programs, you get home studio classes taught how to make sure how to of your home studio will equate to the quality of the demo. Whoever asked that question, recall the name, but it's a really, really smart. I'll also I can't recall end clients ever saying to us, to our production department, um, did the voice actor record these from their home studio? So I don't think anyone even necessarily asks that. We do because we are the direct liaison between the voice actor and the client. So we don't ask that question. We ask, can you send us a studio sample? That's what we typically ask for. So if you record your demo and you're producing, or rather you're recording it at a commercial studio and we are directing you by Zoom or Skype or whatever, IPTTL, Source Connect, and that demo is not recorded at your home studio, just make sure that your home studio sounds good. And again, we'll teach you how to do that. So it's not a concern at all.
Okay, so you guys are great. This chat is so warm and fun and loving, and it just brightens my day every time. Okay, so what I want to do now, Nicole has a class coming up next month here at Edge, and I would love for her to tell us about what the class is.
Yes. Oh, it's going to be so fun. So it's script interpretation. So it can be overwhelming to get a script, no matter if it's 6 seconds long or if it's a 16-hour job. How do you break it down? What does that look like? So something that I studied a lot in college and school and throughout the year is script analysis and script interpretation. So we'll take it back to Stanislavski, break it down. What are you looking for? Some of the cool things, like little things like, what do you do with alliteration and assonance? What even is that? And when you look for that, how does that inform your pacing, your tempo? So I'll talk about some of the fundamentals of taking the script apart so you can put it back together again and make it yours.
I love it. And I just want to, we're going full circle here. One of the first questions we had about your training as a stage or film actor, you can also do things like take classes with voice actors who already infused that into their practice and learn a little bit from there to inform your current practice. So that is what this class is all about. I have dropped a link in the chat. It is on March 18th. It is script interpretation with Paul. And I'm just like super jazzed that she is going to be doing this. I think it's your first specialty class with that, right, Nicole?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
It's super fun.
it's super fast. And if you were a totally new voice actor and you're like, oh my gosh, I really like Nicole, I want to learn, not sure what to do. She does teach our Investigate voiceover classes, and it used to be, of course, in person in Atlanta, and now it's remote for everyone. Here's an IVO coupon, my people, 10% off any IVO if you use the code IVO5. And you can, as a gift from us here at the Ask Me Anything, you can take this class. I recommend it. I took it when I was trying to understand what I could do and who I was in the voiceover world, and having a professional actually write those things down for you is very helpful. I can say that personally. I also want to let you all know we've got actually another amazing woman in voiceover teaching this month. It is diction clarity and pacing with Pen Pen Chen. She is a TEDx innovative educator. She's like a multilingual voice actor and speech pathologist. She's just righteous. I'm like not cursing. I'm like, I want to say a powerful person. A BAMF. And so you should totally look into this class as another opportunity to flex your skills. And then I'm seeing what else I've got. Okay. All right. So if you want to coach, if you want to book a session for a consultation, or you've got a question about, you just want to do some training for a one-on-one, as always, we have our $25 off of coaching with any coach at all. If you follow this link and use the code A, that's it, and you will get 25 off. And you can also, I've got this here directly for you with our friend David himself. You can use that code to work privately with David, which is a very good opportunity. I have this little link tree right here. You just want to see all my links, put them all into one link. What's happening? I've got the hyperlinks. That link tree for Edge Studio will get you there. Nicole, any last words from you for anything we've missed? I know I didn't get to everybody's questions today, but is there something you feel like you want to say on chilly February afternoon across the wave?
Oh my goodness. I just want to say that if this was, for some of you, I realize you've been doing voiceover for a while. Maybe I'm sure you have a representative of the full gamut of experience here. But this is for those of you who are new and decided to show up today, just to check it out because you're curious. I want to say thank you and congratulations for doing it, because I hear a lot. Maybe you've heard all of your life. You've got a great voice. Are you in radio? Right? That's the first thing people think of because we hear radio a lot. Or, gosh, man, you're amazing. Or you do all these characters. You should get into doing animation, or some people will say cartoons, So if you showed up today because you've heard that all of your life, I commend you. It is awesome. It is a very loving, warm community. Voiceover is a great way to exercise your creativity and your mind. As we said in the beginning, this is a business. So you run your own business. You're the performer, you're the engineer, you wear so many different hats. There's always something new to learn. So it fills my soul, and I'm so thankful for it. And I hope that all of you that are here today will find that truth for yourselves as well. It's a really cool industry.
Thank you, Nicole. I want to personally thank Nicole, my friend for several years, via the internet, now like really internet friends on Zoom. Our coaches here join us for AMA as essentially a donation to the community. So if you want to drop her some love for giving her wisdom and her joy to us on this 2021 day, I will be sure she gets it. And I want to thank you personally, Nicole, for saying yes to join us today. And to my friend, David. David, thank you for spending another afternoon here on Zoom with us. It's great to meet you.
Yeah, thank you. As I say, every Ask Me Anything, Siobhan, thank you for doing a terrific, really, really terrific job this and putting it together. Nicole, it was so good to see you and hear your voice. It is just terrific, and your experience. I learned more about you than I ever knew, which is really, really nice. And I always say it, and here it goes again. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And showing your dedication to the voiceover community. And on a personal note, I feel good that I opened up and showed you my pillows. You know, that's a up for me because I'm supposed to be the voiceover company and I'm recording this crazy expensive room, and here I am in a cinder block basement during COVID with pillows, couch pillows. Of course, they are the couch. They're the cushions from the couch where my boy played Nintendo, which is why the fighting has been going on. And I'm hoping that it's not bottom one, but it's I can hear in the background.
Guys,
So I wish you all a fantastic 2 weeks. And so Siobhan will be back 2 weeks. Yes.
yes, I'm already, gosh, I'm like, are there tears in my eyes? I feel like sensitive. Like Kath was like, oh, this is so encouraging. I really appreciate it. So I hope that David showing you his pillows gave you a little bit of empowerment that you're going to do whatever the heck you need to do, and it's going to work out. And like,
Yep.
we're all in this together and we're sharing space for a reason. And ooh, yeah, have feelings. Look at me, sensitive. You want if you want to save the chat, my friends, you're gonna hover to on a desktop. You've got a little ellipses at the very bottom of your chat. You just click on that and you can save to your computer. I will be posting the recording tomorrow from this session on our YouTube, and it will be on social media. So see it there. But the chat does not save. So if you'd like it for some reason, that's how you're gonna do it. David and I will be back again on, oh my gosh, on March 4th, because time
March
is
4th.
it's a construct, you know? What is time? I don't know. But David and I will be there for my Rocky Horror fans at the same bat time on 1 Eastern on March 4th. Just the of us and all 130 of our friends. So, hey, thank you. David, is that my pillow? You guys are great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Bear, it's great to see you. Dawn, I appreciate you. Dina, my bestie, my Zoom bestie. I really appreciate you all joining us. And Nicole, again, we love you and we're grateful for you. And everybody, keep up your good spirits. Keep up the hello social media. If you enjoyed this, can you like tweet about it and be like, oh, Nicole is cool and we like AMA with Edge. You know, we love having a robust and enthusiastic group. That is a command schmell on March 4th. Sometimes you want to go. Everybody knows pillows. Thank you. Okay. Love you all. Happy Thursday. And I so look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks' time. Mwah. Take care.
Bye, guys. Thanks so much for having me. It was fun to hang out.
So fun.
Bye, Nicole. Thanks, Siobhan.
Bye, everybody.